It is 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. The sun's coming through the blinds, you roll over, and naturally, you reach for your phone. You tap the screen to check your notifications, but nothing loads. The screen is just frozen in time. Right away, you probably think, well, it's just a glitch. So you try Google, nothing. You open Instagram, still nothing. You feel that tiny, sudden spike of adrenaline, so you open your banking app, just to be absolutely sure. Completely dead. And this is exactly where a minor morning inconvenience rapidly turns into a mystery. At first, you're convinced it's just your Wi-Fi router acting up again. But then you look out the window. Your neighbor is standing on their porch, staring at their phone, looking just as confused as you are. You head down to the local coffee shop, and they can't process any payments. The gas station down the street, their entire system is totally unresponsive. And suddenly, this chilling realization hits you. This isn't just your internet. This is America's internet. So what happens if the internet doesn't just reboot in 10 minutes? What happens if it doesn't come back in an hour or 6 hours? What if the underlying system holding the entire country together simply vanishes for a full 24 hours? Part 1. When simple becomes impossible. See, we live our everyday lives on top of this massive invisible layer, and modern America is deeply intrinsically connected to it. Hospitals, banks, airports, emergency dispatch, they are all relying on it constantly, without any of us even noticing. In the first hour, there are no Hollywood explosions. There's no rioting in the streets. Honestly, it's mostly just widespread confusion. Millions of people are simply walking over to their routers, unplugging them, waiting 30 seconds, and plugging them back in. Life actually seems to continue normally. Cars are driving, stores are opening their doors. But there is a massive problem nobody notices, right up until they try to pay. Picture this. You're standing at the cash register. You tap your credit card for a simple cup of coffee. Declined. You try it again. Still nothing. The cashier just looks at a blank screen and says, yeah, sorry, our system is down. And in that exact moment, you realize the inability to process digital payments just made a remarkably simple, everyday task completely impossible. As we roll into the second hour, the digital world violently crashes into analog reality. People instinctively reach for their phones to search for why the internet is down. And then it hits them. They can't search for anything at all. Suddenly, millions of Americans realize they have completely lost their main source for news, for weather alerts, for basic instructions. Without it, people are instantly forced to depend on older systems. We're talking television, AM radio, or literally just walking outside and talking to the people around them. But here's where things get really interesting. By the third hour, something we do every single day becomes a genuinely lost skill: driving. Think about the contrast between your usual GPS navigation and relying entirely on physical signs. Normally, you just open an app and a calm voice tells you exactly when to turn. But now you're staring at physical highway signs, trying to remember how to actually navigate the physical world. Now multiply that lost skill by millions of drivers, delivery tricks, and emergency responders. The entire physical flow of the country simply starts to seize up. Part 2. The money problem. Because when digital payments fail, it forces us to ask the one question nobody really wants to think about when the system stops. What actually happens to our money? Most of us don't carry anywhere near enough cash to live normally for a day, all because of the incredible convenience of a simple tap. But behind that tap is a massive hidden network. It is this intensely interconnected infrastructure of computers, banks, communication systems, and digital services all talking to each other in milliseconds. If that underlying network disappears, your plastic card is completely useless. Which leads to a highly realistic, terrifying realization. Imagine standing in a grocery store, holding your groceries thinking, wait, so my money is still in the bank, right? But I literally cannot access it? Having money in your account means absolutely nothing if the network isn't there to verify it. The internet isn't just carrying our streaming shows and text messages. It is the very highway that moves information about our money. Part 3. America moves backward. We are talking socially here, not just technologically. Because as we hit the 6-hour mark, the tone across the country shifts dramatically. That morning annoyance, it completely evaporates, turning into deep concern as companies realize this isn't some quick, localized outage. Emergency procedures are officially activated. And there's one part of the story that is so easy to miss. The internet is not some magical cloud floating above us. It is a highly physical collection of networks.
We're talking actual cables crossing ocean floors, satellites in orbit, massive data centers, and physical servers. Here is the glaring vulnerability in all of this. A corporate backup system is only useful if the backup itself still works. If the underlying physical cables and communication networks are severed, there is no magic switch someone in Washington can just flip to turn America back online. By the 12-hour mark, half a day in, we see this incredibly stark contrast between automated software and manual processing. America literally rewinds in time. Millions are suddenly forced to do things manually that software usually handles completely invisibly. People are relying exclusively on whatever cash they have in their wallets, they're tuning into scratchy AM and FM radio stations for any scrap of information, and multi-million-dollar businesses are suddenly reduced to writing orders down by hand on pieces of paper.
Part 4, the 24-hour mark. Now, imagine that invisible layer finally begins to reconnect. One service comes back online, then another. All those text messages that have been stuck in digital limbo suddenly flood your phone all at once. The banking systems slowly sync back up, and normalcy, cautiously, almost hesitantly, returns to our screens.
But the true impact here, it's the psychological aftermath. For an entire day, millions of people lived in a world where the technology they completely took for granted simply vanished. Suddenly, everyone is intensely aware of this invisible layer running in the background of their lives. You see, when it works, it's totally invisible, but when it fails, it is quite literally the only thing you can see. So what does this all mean? Maybe the biggest question isn't whether America could survive one day without the internet. We probably could, honestly, just through sheer human stubbornness and adaptation. But here is the real question. After becoming so deeply, so systemically dependent on this invisible layer for our food, our money, and our safety, if the internet disappeared tomorrow, would America really be ready?